This is Defenders TV Podcast, episode 33, looking at Jessica Jones, season 1, episode 3, aka It's Called Whiskey. Welcome back, Defenders, to Defenders TV Podcast. This is episode 33, and we are on episode 3 of Jessica Jones, aka It's Called Whiskey, and there's been a lot of whiskey. I think in this episode we have Wild Turkey, the cheapest one she can find. But I'm one of your hosts, John.
I'm your other host, Derek.
And I'm the final host, Chris.
So, guys, what did you think of this episode overall? Like, anything that immediately jumps out? What are your thoughts?
One of my favourite things has happened in this episode, which is all of the questions that we had and all the theories that we had were thrown away, thrown to the wind and told we're wrong. Here's the actual answers. So we got loads of answers in this episode, which I really enjoyed.
Chris?
Same. Basically, they just... Yeah, I don't think they so much threw them away as just literally went, no, we've been playing you all along. This is the actual answer.
Exactly.
But then it did raise a hell of a lot more questions, which I liked. It was basically like, for every question answered, there was another 3 that were opened. And I'm like, goddamn, now I've got to take more theories and conspiracy theories.
Always good. How about you, John?
Yeah, I had that as well, and I also like the whiskey watch. You know, another brand of whiskey. She really isn't fussy. It is all about the whiskey.
Absolutely. Still no Irish whiskey yet, then.
No Irish whiskey yet, but Whiskey Watch is here, and it is beady-eyed on every whiskey bottle that she purchases and swigs.
I'm wondering if she'll go bourbon just to mix things up midway through the season.
She's done bourbon.
Yeah,
and she's done scotch.
Yeah.
But this is her second brand of bourbon. She's done a Jim Beam, this is a Wild Turkey, and she's had a Cutty Sark as well. That's the only scotch so far. And of course, it was great to see the Door make another appearance in a really good little fun scene between Jessica and 2 workmen. So that was really good. But before we move on to our discussion of the episode, for anyone listening for the first time or coming to it anew, remember, we do a 5-point structure and go through the points of this episode that we have found interesting, controversial, good, bad, or whatever else takes our fancy. Remember, you can find us on defenderstvpodcast.com/iTunes or search Defenders TV Podcast on any other good podcast catchers such as Player FM, Podcast Addict, Beyond Pod, or Stitcher. If you have any feedback or comments or discussion on the show so far, or for episode 3, 4, 5, each specific episode, please send it in to feedback@defenderstvpodcast.com. You can also join our Facebook page and group. Just search Defenders TV Podcast on Facebook, or you can tweet to us at DefendersCast, all your thoughts and points. We'll be taking feedback in this episode as well, at some point during our 5-point discussion. I think with that, we'll move into our discussion of episode 3, aka It's Called Whiskey.
As usual for our episodes, we'll start out with a synopsis and then go into a full spoiler-filled discussion. So if you haven't watched episode 3, make sure you do. The episode's obviously called aka It's Called Whiskey. This was written by Liz Friedman and Scott Reynolds, with a teleplay by Liz Friedman and directed by David Petrarca. So a slightly different setup here. It looks like Liz Friedman has written the overall story and then worked with another writer to bring the actual full thing to life here. John, do you want to tell us overall what we got?
Luke and Jessica familiarise themselves intimately with each other as they explore one another and bond over their special abilities. But a picture of Luke's dead wife sparks a troubling memory in the mind of Jessica, one that she just seems unable to shake off. By day, however, Jessica is focused on acquiring surgical anaesthetic that she thinks she can use on Kilgrave, and persuading Hope's legal team of actually defending her from the media scrutiny. As Jerry Hogarth agrees to explore Hope's explanation about mind control on Trish Talk, she seemingly rubbishes Hope's story for ulterior motives, and in so doing places Trish Walker in grave danger. As Kilgrave attempts to dispatch Walker, Jessica foils his plans and attempts to deploy her own secret weapon against him, but comes undone as she is face to face with her nemesis and a chilling homage dedicated to Jessica Jones.
And before we get into actual discussion, I just wanted to bring up one quick point that for somehow that scene that John has just described in the synopsis has been boiled down to, and let me quote, Luke and Jessica familiarise themselves intimately. So, John, is that how you would describe that scene?
Well, no, I suppose it's my first point.
Okay.
I was expecting, after the angle grinder, that maybe, I think I said at the last episode, maybe a pneumatic drill or a sander would be deployed by Luke just to prove even further how unbreakable he is. But instead, we get a sort of a great test of strength.
Yeah.
And then a great test of
a bed
stamina and a bed frame. Yeah,
Right.
exactly. R.I.P. Luke's bed frame.
So, John, that's your first point, yeah?
My first point, is that, we get a really good immediate follow-on from the end of episode 2, where he's obviously angle grinding his abs, and we start to get then this more intimate exploration between the two protagonists, Luke Cage and Jessica Jones here. She's checking out his body and then checks it out even further in the bed. There's a bit of, light masonry damage as they test their strength. This is rough sex, superhero style, I suppose. And it was really good fun. It was really great to see. And I mean, then the rest of the episode is peppered with them just, it's almost, it's the first meet. It's new love and it's just sex. Right. In between, really harrowing scenes. But it's their way of escaping from Kilgrave for Jessica. And I suppose for Luke, I don't know, it's, that's what he's good at as well, amongst other things.
I had to agree with John. This was just hilarious. And it actually has fully ingrained into my psyche that this show, this series, these Netflix MCU style are the Max series. Mm-hmm. This was basically Grey's Anatomy styled. Well, not even probably worse. I don't know.
50 Shades of Grey, maybe?
50 Shades of Grey, yeah. That's the one I was... Grey's Anatomy. They're actually the same show. Little known fact. the Dr. Grey is the same doctor... No, anyway.
There is a reference to Grey's Anatomy in this episode as well, isn't there? Where Jessica says that's where she works, that she works in Grey's.
It was last episode.
Yeah.
They're all bleeding into one. No, completely. I just agree so much with John. This is just fully ingrained that this show is for 18-year-olds and up. This is Game of Thrones style. We're going to get violence. We're going to get hardcore sex. We're going to get breaking of beds and furniture. Mm-hmm. I'm happy with it.
Yeah, I mean, I love how, this testing of their abilities. Like, I think Jessica says, I've never done it with someone who's gifted, and boy, you're gifted. Two rolled into one there that, he's strong and he's gifted below the sheets, and it's just really, really good. I just loved how they were testing how strong each other were, and actually, she could be stronger.
Yeah.
Jessica Jones is the one that really can hold Luke Cage's power that he displayed there in that bar fight in episode 2, and now he's met his match in this little lady, but powerful and strong and mentally tough lady in Jessica Jones. I absolutely loved it.
Yeah, I love that moment because it really does feel like Lucas realizing how strong she really is, and it's great. I don't know whether she's stronger than him or whether he's holding back. There's no reason for him to you go full force fighting with her. That's not the point of the scene. It just looks like he's realizing, hold on a second, this woman is powerful and very strong. Yeah, really, really good scene, definitely.
No, and that actually, this is my first point, and it's a perfect segue. Is like, I actually still think she's stronger. I don't think that was that scene in particular, that 3-4 seconds. He looks like he's quivering against her. Mm-hmm. Like she's holding his arm and then she forces it into a different direction.
Yeah.
Like I'm going, no, I think she's stronger.
Right.
Like he has unbreakable skin, that's fine. We do know he is somewhat strength augmented. Mm-hmm. We don't know how much, but I think that's a nice juxtaposition that he is the big hulking man, but he's unbreakable, but he's probably not as strong. And then she's the small little frail kind of white girl who could probably kick his white lily ass. Like, she could. Like, if looking at that. But I think that was the one I enjoyed. That was my kind of interesting point about it.
Yeah. I think it's just the smile on his face. It's just that's what makes me think that maybe he is a bit stronger. He's not going to test it on her, obviously, but it's just that smile on his face lets me know that he's really excited by the possibility of this woman being strong, and the fact that he won't have to hold back in the bedroom like he probably does with other women. The fact that he won't have to hold back with her at all because she can take whatever he gives to her.
Oh my God, there's so much sexual innuendo with this first topic.
And what great Luke Cage saying does he come out with after one hell of a ride?
All right.
Sweet Christmas.
That is fantastic.
I'm glad that that was purely put in just for the Marvel junkies, because everyone else would just go, "That's quite strange.
That's a weird thing to say.
That's a weird thing to say after sex," and it's like, no, that's his calling card.
Exactly. Yeah.
It is quite a strange kind of battle cry. Like, if you think about it. It's like, Avengers assemble, sweet Christmas,
sweet baby Christmas.
It's just like, no, I'm not 100% that's going to be the same striking fear into Hydra's heart as the heroes for hire run into a room and he battle cries. Well, I suppose it's just that this huge hulking man in a yellow shirt is running through a wall at you and he's yelling that. You'll be like, what?
Yeah, it's not really like the wahoo of the Helen Commandos. Really, really good. But another element of that scene that kind of leads me on to my first point is actually about the creepy neighbor who's watching the two of them have sex, basically, and then eventually interrupts and says that it's Reuben, isn't it? He eventually interrupts and says that his sister thinks they're too loud, essentially, and that's why. But you don't know how long he's been standing there watching the two of them make out and have sex in Jessica's office.
She really needs to fix that door.
She does.
Luckily she does. But
she does. Yeah.
Well, then she breaks it again.
Yeah.
But the other interesting point about Reuben is that he is actually quite similar to a character in the comic books. Character is also called Malcolm. So this starts to get a little bit confusing, so stick with me. So Malcolm in the TV show is the heroin-addicted neighbor. And Reuben is one of the twins that live upstairs, the creepy neighbors upstairs. In the comic books, there's a character called Malcolm who is constantly interrupting Jessica in her office and looking for a job from her. He's basically the annoying kid character in the comic books. What I think they've done here is taken that character and called him Reuben and kept Malcolm as a completely different character, and he's now the heroin addict in the show. But again, really nice that they're taking something from the source material in Alias. Love the book. Really, really enjoyed it. And I always wanted to see that character of Malcolm kind of brought a bit more to the forefront. So really enjoy seeing at least Reuben here taking on some of those characteristics for the TV show.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, he's certainly becoming, an episode special guest, as it were. He's there all the time, or reoccurring guest, I should say. Like, he's there, and it'll be really interesting just to see how that relationship develops. It seems as though still his sister is the annoying one. That Jessica is always going to just be like, I just don't like you, or I don't get you, or just leave me alone in peace. But there seems to be some kind of connection forming maybe with Reuben there. And it'll be interesting just to see what happens, whether he goes down that road and actually starts to help her out, or whether the Malcolm in the TV show will be the person that does that. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But I mean, I think they're a good little foil actually within the apartment block to have the twins there. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if it wasn't for his casual racism, she never would have come up with a plan to take Malcolm to the hospital later on. So he's helping her out in a very weird way, and he is a very weird character. But I do like that. Again, they're using stuff from the comics.
Yeah, no, I think that the Malcolm that we have in the TV show was probably going to be attempted to be maybe this Malcolm from the source material. I say it probably tested wrong, and they've added in these characters like this other two twins, it just seems that, like, from the first episode, it looks and sounds like Malcolm from the TV show is going to be the comedic element of, and then we kind of see he's been petered off.
Gosh, he's getting worse and worse as the episodes go on, isn't he? He's just really going down that rabbit hole of just taking way too much heroin. This isn't a guy who goes out and parties every night, taking E and going dancing all night. This is a guy that takes a lot of heroin and doesn't know.
Chasing the dragon.
Yeah, doesn't know the last time he's eaten, doesn't know whether he's bleeding or not, this kind of stuff. It's,
Well, and he gets knocked over, doesn't he, by the bike. And, I mean, Jessica kind of helps him out there, sees him in the street close to the apartment, helps him out. And he does kind of come back to her and say, Jessica, you're a good person. And of course, that sets up maybe later on in the episode where she has in effect used him in order to get this surgical anesthetic that she needs to sort of progress her plan, as it were, to stop Kilgrave. For me, I think that's the first kind of real dynamic between these two characters. There's been a bit of a jokey one. I do like the fact that Malcolm seems to be going into everyone's apartment and eating their peanut butter or something. But this to me is the first real kind of true interaction between the two, and it'll be interesting how or if that progresses any further.
Yeah, it does kind of lead on to one of my points that I have, which is about Jessica's plan here to get the drugs, which she found out in the last episode can possibly tone down Kilgrave's powers. Really interesting and very different for a superhero. Or for a superhero show or for a comic book. She essentially will use anybody around her to take down Kilgrave because she knows how bad he is, and I get that, definitely. But she tries to use Jerry Hogarth's wife, who's a doctor, trying to get her to give her the drugs. She tries to use Luke Cage because he knows drug dealers, so tries to get drugs off him. And then when none of that works, she takes this basically helpless heroin addict, brings him to the hospital, drops him on the floor, and uses him as well, and leaves him behind as she walks out of the hospital, leaves him behind to be, essentially, he's probably going to get arrested because he's a heroin addict, and just leaves him behind. So she's really willing to throw everybody under the bus to take down Kilgrave, which is very different for a superhero.
But there's one thing I would say about that, like, she's resourceful, and I suppose as a PI, that's where she's coming from. She's being resourceful. She's using her world, her environment, her connections in order to progress this requirement that she needs to get the anesthetic. But at the same time, I do think that her moral center is slightly different from, say, the Avengers. She cares about people. She says that. And I think you can see that she's not necessarily happy that she's done that to Malcolm.
Absolutely.
But
really well played scene.
Yeah,
really
but it's necessary in order to get the job done and to stop a greater kind of evil, as it were. And I think that's the same that you saw with her in the room with the sort of paralyzed and the stroke victim, the ambulance driver. It's something where, like, in a sense, she's there to get information, and all of a sudden she's taken hold of with quite an emotional aspect to that interaction and that world that he's in, because he says, "Kill me." And she says, "I'm sorry," but she just has to leave. She's not trying to kill him, and she's not necessarily trying to do anything else to help him. She just has to say, "I'm really sorry, but I've got to leave and progress this." And I think that's another example of that as well.
Yeah, because I kind of feel that one of the reasons she didn't kill him is because it wouldn't have been useful to her to do that. It would have just set her back. She would have been accused by the police. The mother would have had a problem with it, obviously, which is really bad. There is something very different about Jessica's character. I love how she's played, but there's something very different. As you say, the moral center is a bit off from what we would normally see in comic books and in TV shows.
Yeah, no, I think just kind of on this, and I'm kind of putting my flag down now, in that I think this is going to be they're telegraphing the story part where it's, do the means justify the end.
Yeah.
It's very much, she's going to go down. She's going to do something to Trish. She's going to do something to Malcolm, which she already did. She's going to alienate all her friends. And we know that she had already done that to a degree before this season 1, episode 1 started.
Yeah.
She was pushing away Trish. She was dangerous, blah, blah. I think this is where it's going to be, you're going to do all these evil things, do the means justify the end.
Absolutely.
She's going to have a moral reawakening. It's kind of telegraphing that. Now, based on what we've seen before, this could be a complete feint.
Maybe, yeah.
That it won't happen that way. We've already seen, because she's now involved Trish is hurt.
Yeah.
Because she's involved Malcolm is now arrested in the hospital.
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah, because he looks away. So she's ruining relationship after relationship.
Mm-hmm.
She's done something to Luke. Well, she hasn't done. She feels bad, and she's destroyed that relationship. So basically, she's systematically destroying everything in her desire to go after Kilgrave and stop Kilgrave when she was when she thought happy to leave him and thought he was dead.
Yeah.
Is it really her job? No. I think that's where it's going towards, that she'll have this. Trish will sit her down and go, "You're doing too much. You're turning into him, blah, blah, blah." I still will enjoy that story arc, but...
Hopefully it's not acted like that.
No. It's like, "Oh my God, la, la, la."
But yeah, to use a Star Trek kind of reference, this is the question from Spock of the needs of the many outweighing the needs of the few. That is an interesting version of the moral center. But when the needs of the few are the only friends she has around her, that she's throwing all of them under the bus, as I say, that's quite a significant bit, isn't it? It's a significant point for the character, definitely. John, do you have the next point?
I do. I think there's a lot of great backstory elements that come out here. And I think for me, what comes out here is the two of them, Jessica Jones and Luke Cage, bonding over being superheroes.
Post-coitus.
Yeah, absolutely.
Post-coitus. Everyone needs a good falafel after post-coitus.
Definitely. Bit of coffee, bit of water, just to get the strength back for round 2. And, we find out that Jessica was a result of an accident in terms of getting her powers, and Luke Cage, the result of an experiment.
Yes, so as I mentioned earlier on, this is the one that absolutely destroyed my theory that these are possibly superheroes that exist in the universe that were born like this. They absolutely asked the question of each other, were you born like this? Nope. Accident, no experiment.
No, exactly. And I think, with Luke Cage, that was, his backstory is generally that he was put in prison, and in order to kind of get early parole, he signs up to this program, which is testing an experimental drug.
Yeah.
And he gets overdosed with that, and that's how he gets his unbreakable skin. I think another nice little twist in this is that Jessica, in terms of trying to find this surgical anesthetic, goes to Luke Cage as well, asking for whether he knows anyone on the streets and so on. And he goes, of course, kind of thing.
I work in a dive bar in Hell's Kitchen. Of course, I know drug dealers.
Exactly. He just can't get the surgical anesthetic. That is beyond his range. But that's a nice little connection there for Luke Cage, because the reason he's in prison is over a girl, and he's framed for heroin possession. So he does have an intimate backstory with drug dealing and that, and being framed. So that was kind of a nice little touch. With Jessica Jones, her accident, is an accident that also involves the loss of her parents. But after that, I'm not entirely sure, how she gets her superpowers, what it's from.
And I think at the very least we're going to get that in a future episode. We'll definitely get more details of their backstories, won't we?
I would think so, but I think another thing that's really good here is that, we find out a bit more about this kind of more street level superhero, where, Luke Cage is quite honest and open, and he says being a hero just puts a target on your back. I mean, he kind of just doesn't want that hassle, it would seem. And with Jessica Jones, she goes, well, I did the superhero gig and it just didn't work out. It didn't work out for her. Like, she got maybe too involved, or the Kilgrave elements here. And it was just like, no, I don't want that. I will just try and build this new life as a PI. So I thought this was really a nice little exploration of their backstories here.
Definitely.
Yeah, no, completely. Just going back to what you said about the experiment for Luke, well, in the comics, that is Project Rebirth, which is the super soldier serum, Captain America. They tried to on a number of criminals first, and that was great. And then actually, that's completely kind of one of my points as well, in that Jessica saying the hero gig, done that once. never again. And in a fun way was the costume. Kind of like, ooh, sweet, do you still have the costume? Of course, because you're going to ask that. If someone's been running around in latex and spandex, you're going to go, oh yeah, okay, have you got that hiding away there somewhere? Which I thought was a great kind of, again, comedy insertion into something where the rest of us were all geeking out.
Yeah, absolutely. But Jessica doesn't take it very well. Luke is thinking it's a playful comment of, can you put on the costume for me kind of thing. But Jessica doesn't take that very well and kind of stands up and walks away for a second, doesn't she?
Yeah.
To get another coffee or something. But yeah, you can tell she doesn't really like the idea of sticking back on that costume.
No, so that basically has us 100% cemented that she was Jewel at some point. So she did a quick run as that. We also know that she jumps. He goes, do you fly? He goes, no, I just jump really high.
Fine answering your question from
exactly.
episode 1, yeah.
So she kind of goes, it's kind of like jumping. And I'm like, okay, so I think that means she can fly, but it's just that she hasn't got full control, because even in the comic books in Pulse and which again, I guess, as Derek so kindly pointed out, between episodes while we were recording this, I have been Wikipediaing Jessica Jones in the background. I knew parts of her. I haven't read Alias and I haven't read Pulse, but I'm waiting because these are going to be good.
Yes.
But I know from her New Avengers days. So in some of the later episodes of the comics, she does fly. I think, but again, apparently, according to the kind of backstory in Wikipedia, she couldn't fly. She just jumped a lot when she was Jewel.
Yes, she's not the greatest of superheroes, I think, is kind of what we get.
Yeah.
We won't go into too much more because I think we're going to get a version of this in the show. I think they're going to give more of the backstory in the show, so I'm not going to spoil anything for you guys about the backstory. But fundamentally, she's just not the greatest of superheroes, which is why she kind of gave it up.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that's not the reason, but we'll talk about it, I'm sure, as we get to those episodes. But very much, she is not Supergirl. She's not Miss Marvel. She's not at that level. She's not Captain America. She's certainly not a top tier of the Avengers kind of level of power. She tried it once. It didn't work out for her, is kind of what we get from this. Yeah.
Funny you should mention the Avengers. That was one of my happiest moments. You're not like Green Dude and his crew. So apparently Hulk is leading the Avengers. I was like, that is brilliant. The Green Dude and his crew.
I like that.
And not even Captain America, not Iron Man. You kind of the guys we would think as the central pivot of the central core of the Avengers. No. It's the Green Dude.
Yeah. But I do like how Luke is connecting the two of them to the Avengers there, essentially saying, are we the only ones out here? Is it just the Avengers and the two of us?
Yeah.
Or is there more? And again, that is the other thing that tips Jessica over, because she knows there is one more, and that's Kilgrave.
Yeah. And I think I'm just happy they have finalized It's Gifted. So we're getting, okay, hashtag gifted. We're in a good spot there, and I'm quite happy with that. And that just answered my point from very much earlier on that we were talking about.
Yeah, and a bit of feedback that we got in on that episode and on your
reader mail.
Yeah,
Mailstorm.
Mailstorm. I like it. Paramail.
Iron Mail.
Chainmail.
So David Wang came back and said, read Chris's point number 3 about why this stupid gifted crap. He says, I wonder why they can't use superpowered for neutral usages and something like freak for derogatory usage. What's the problem with that?
There is none.
There is none, actually. Yeah,
I would agree. I think the sooner they could just sort out sort of general terminology on this. It is a shame it's all sort of mixed up and restrained through sort of copyright rights and proprietary rights. I mean, because it kind of makes it a bit kind of, legal, I suppose, in that sense. But it's kind of, it's just a shame they can't use these words. I mean, it's part of the English language, As a writer, you kind of want to go, well, this dictionary is available to me for entire use. And all of a sudden a lawyer comes in and goes, well, actually, this is copyrighted in this specific publication that we've bought the rights from. I mean, I understand proprietary rights. I get it. But whether it should be on,
by the way.
but whether it should be on words is another matter entirely. I mean, it is crazy, that association of words with characters. I don't know. It's a bit strange sometimes, but yeah. I agree. Why not just use this? Superpowers, superheroes, or freaks, or possibly mutant. Or something like that. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, I think it's. I agree. I would love them to get to that point. I'd say the reason they haven't when they're doing these types of shows is they want to segment themselves from the Fox usage, the CW usage, the DCU, the DCTVU. They all have they're different. They're metahumans. They all want to call themselves and define themselves as something else.
Yeah.
So you have the enhanced being the Inhumans, the gifted being the superheroes, or the accidental, the Spider-Mans, the Jessica Jones, the Luke Cages. They're the gifted. I think that's what they're literally trying to put as you say, a proprietary usage on. Oh no, we own this word. And that's what they want to copyright that because we can't get a mutant in there. So yeah, to David's point, I'd love them just to go super powered and free because of derogatory, and we'd have a similar description of all these different types of powers just under one label. Yeah. I think it's really either just a business choice for each of for Marvel versus DC versus CW. They want to flag their claim onto a particular word. I'd love it, though. When they go back, it would just be, oh, you're a superhero. Yeah, grand. Yeah. That's it.
I think it's still, I still make the point that I do think it's because they're not all connected. There's no newspaper telling them what to call, so each character has their own version of this. Just kind of like in The Walking Dead, as I said last time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But Derek, what's your next point?
My next point is the big kind of character moment here for Trish. This episode has a lot of Trish in it. When I was going through my notes that I took after the episode, I was surprised at how heavily involved she is in the episode and how big her character is. We had a little bit of her last episode and a little bit about what she does and the fact that she produces a radio show. This time we get to see the radio show. We get to see her training in her house. We get to see her take down Jessica Jones, which is quite significant. We get the attack by the officer who comes to her home and see how strong she really is, essentially. And we get to see her attack Kilgrave on her radio show, which is an absolutely phenomenal scene. And probably the one I'm going to talk about is probably my favorite scene of the episode. During the radio call-in that she has with Hope, she has a moment where she calls out Kilgrave. And I think it's fantastic because we get the call back in from Kilgrave. He calls into the show and tells her, if you've got a man with the power that you think that you're talking about in the show, why would you challenge him? Do you think that's a good idea? A real threatening moment from Kilgrave with another character in the show. I really like that. Definitely.
Yeah, again, that's why we don't do live podcasting with live phone-ins, because anyone that says, long-time listener...
First-time caller.
Mm-hmm.
You know they're evil.
Yeah, evil. Yeah, but that was great. I love the fact he came in to that space that they had set up for Trish and Hope to discuss, and that he kind of he crashed it, and he came in and he didn't give himself away. He just asked these hypothetical questions about is what you've done a good idea? And I thought it was really menacing, really good. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Loving David Tennant doing that. And I think this episode anyway, I just thought, David Tennant as Kilgrave really, really starts to come out and play. It's really good.
And the reaction from Hope, who can hear him on the other end of Jerry's phone when she's in prison. Again, she thinks she's away from Kilgrave. She thinks she's safe. She's in a prison. But just the voice of him can tell her what she needs to do and can control her. So she knows this and is freaked out. Yeah.
No, completely. It was almost Tennant-tacular. Yes, I am copyrighting that one. Tennant-tacular. No, it was brilliant. It was a brilliant scene. I don't know how I felt. It was very ominous, but it was also, I think, very well calculated. And it's not until later in the episode that you understand a bit more why Trish did what she did, while Kilgrave kind of responded the way he responded. I think they're setting again. They're with these episodes, and we're not even into our first four. They're setting the foundations. They're going, okay, we're just giving you backstory. We're giving you character plot development. We're making you understand that David Tennant, Kilgrave, is so vain that everything must be 100% perfect, even his kidneys. He loves the way he loves it. But if you challenge him, he's going to go, "You stupid little."
Yeah.
Like, that would be the stupidest idea you could. And he's just going to tell you flat out. So I think that was more just to kind of show his ego.
Yeah.
But I think it was a great way of doing it.
Absolutely. And I love that it also shows that Trish is willing to stand up to him.
Yeah.
She's gone through this with Jessica. She sees the toll it's taken. She knows what's happened to Hope now. And she's just willing to, it's personal safety be damned. Essentially, she doesn't care what happens to her. She's not going to let him control her from the other side of the airwaves, but it does show that he can. Basically, from this point onwards, wherever she goes, wherever she's going to be, there could be someone under the control of Kilgrave that could challenge her. I do really like that. It's a real good strength of her character to stand up to him, but a really scary moment.
Yeah, I think this actually leads on as well to my next point, which is just the whole Trish talk situation that, to me, actually now seems to be, it's been forced by Jerry Hogarth. And it has undesired consequences for Trish in that phone call, definitely. Mm-hmm. I don't think Jerry was looking for that to happen. But I love the fact that, Jessica is kind of really been at Jerry Hogarth to really defend Hope, start to earn your legal fee kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Hope's been scrutinized in the press, on the radio and all this, and is in a sense being kind of dismissed, that she's hiding behind the mantra that the devil made me do it. And Jessica asks the question, but what if the devil made you do it?
Yeah.
And it's a really interesting thing, and I think it's great, actually, character development for Jerry Hogarth, because in this, Carrie-Anne Moss, it's really that I'm the only one that's important, but from a legal sense, she is pure legal. And I think that's what comes out from this, because initially, it looks like she's trying to get rid of Hope from the case, throw Hope under the bus, where she kind of says, she comes back to Trish Walker and says, you can see that this delusion now is well embedded, that she doesn't believe what Hope is saying. And she's her defense lawyer. But ultimately, it's all a scheme, another motive by Jerry as a lawyer to not be the one that poses the question as to whether mind control could actually happen. And she leaves that to Trish, where Trish comes in to defend Hope and say, because of her experience with Jessica, to say, look, this is something that could actually happen. And it allows Jerry the legal freedom to pose that question then when she actually defends Hope. And rather than being ridiculed, she'd go, it wasn't me that brought up this idea. This is a theory and a proposition that I'm giving. I don't need to answer whether it actually happens. This was raised, put into the public conscience by Trish Walker. So really legal, really manipulative.
Absolutely.
But just a really fantastic little sort of plan hatched by Jerry, sort of circumventing, doing what Jessica wants her to do, but then circumventing it so that she can ultimately back a winning horse rather than a loser, as she said. So I find that really, really a great scene for Jerry Hogarth here. And I think this is one of her biggest ones so far, really, in terms of manipulating people. So I thought that was really good. And of course then it does link in then to the danger that Trish comes under as a result of doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that kind of this is another segue. It perfectly
segue central.
Yeah. It's almost like a junction. That kind of brings into my third point, which was Trish's so we had Jerry's character development to show that she is a sneaky lawyer. She was crafty and clever. She
actually is the one that's preventing us from using mutants and superheroes.
But then here in this, we also see Trish's character development, and as you kind of mentioned those other points in terms of the kind of the way she's putting herself out there, etc. We have more in that she had a fingerprint scanner on the front of her door.
That's right.
She has a steel reinforced door. She had bulletproof glass. She showed the Krav Maga like, and it's full on. So we thought it was just maybe self-defense. No, she is kind of more at it.
When did you become a ninja?
Yeah, exactly.
I love that.
But then also we found that maybe her mother beat her up. Because Jessica says, "Is your mother back? Did she give you those bruises?"
That's right. Yeah.
So we're going to go, okay, so maybe there was a past in terms of a violent past, and that's why she's decided to become. I think they're trying to play on the fact, okay, no, she just wants to look after herself. She says to Jessica, I believe, and now again I'm paraphrasing, it was along the lines of, "I don't need you to look after me anymore.
Yeah,
I can take care of myself."
Yeah.
So was Jessica her defender?
Nice.
As a child, or as a thing. Again, the relationship. How does this working?
Yeah, we know in this episode they used to live together. Because the training room that she has used to be Jessica's bedroom. So
as you said, we know they lived together. But then there was the accident. In the comic books, her the origin story is she was in a car accident. She loses her parents. She becomes superpowered. She goes to a foster family. Blah blah blah. Are they kind of taking a play on that in this? They were not just best friends; they're stepsisters,
right?
Foster sisters,
right? Because Trish's mother possibly was abusive, so yeah.
And then Jessica stopped her. Then they moved out together, and they stayed. And then they did the whole.
That's a really cool notion, though, because I mean, I know I was kind of saying, well, what is their relationship? Is it lovers, given how sexual this show is? Are they just friends?
Yeah.
There is the idea of Hellcat here with Trish Walker. So, is it just that they're superheroes that worked together previously? It didn't even cross my mind potentially, about the stepsister front. I think that's a really kind of cool little theory, actually.
Yeah, I think that would be a nice way. So then she has the lover in Luke. She has the employer in Jerry. She has the weirdo friends in the apartment block, and then she has the sister.
Yeah, and
then the enemy is Kilgrave, who was the ex-lover, the evil boss. He's the bad side. But I think the sister would be a nice angle. Absolutely. And I'm liking that. Again, pure speculation. We're on episode 3. It was just the way she said, "Is your mother back?
Yeah.
Is she beating you?" Then all the reinforced. I think maybe Trish helped push the costume element, done that once with Jessica, and now when Jessica stopped and she ran away and they left the apartment, now Trish is thinking, okay, I can be the next, and that's it. Again, it's just I think it's great. They're giving enough tidbits in each episode. It's like a little breadcrumb, and I'm just speculating. My mind's running amok, kind of going. But I do like this sister thing.
Yep.
I want to see if it's kind of going to play out.
I think we'll kind of answer my question of why Trish seems so not unconnected to Jessica's world as well. So they may have had sisterly lives, but they probably came from very different backgrounds to begin with. Yeah, very good theory.
No, it's an interesting one.
Yeah.
So Derek, what's your next point?
I want to continue on the Trish point.
Hey!
Because
Trish loving.
Because this really is a big episode for her as a character. The attack on her by, I think it's Officer Simpson, who comes to her door under the control of Kilgrave. And I have to say, when we were watching this, there is absolutely no doubt in my mind when he arrived at the door that he was under the power of Kilgrave. Yeah. She does everything correctly. She doesn't let him in. Until she sees ID. She's very, very secure in what she's doing, but the whole time, I think, Chris, you were shouting at the screen going, "Don't let him in."
Yeah, absolutely. It was don't let him in. Yeah. I just thought she should have, once she got his ID, she should have phoned the police.
Yeah, very good. That was a good option. Good option. But what we do know is we've seen the training. We've seen what she's done. We know that she can really kick ass. So I kind of was thinking she's going to be pretty prepared for this. She is. She has her club in her hand as he comes in the door. She knows if he attacks how to take him out. But the unfortunate part about this here is she's not superpowered. That's the one thing that really stands out. She had Jessica used to protect her. As she's mentioned, she is superpowered. Trish isn't superpowered. She is well trained in self-defense, but this guy, remember, under the control of Kilgrave, is being told, you must kill this woman. So his his training is going into killing her. He's not just your standard foe. And it's a really difficult moment. If Jessica hadn't turned up when she did, Trish would have been dead. Definitely.
Yeah. And that one throw, when Jessica like literally just pushes him with her again one-handed, and we get a camera pan, and it's literally him flying sidewards into a bookshelf, and I'm like, okay, so they're really playing on the power thing, and I completely agree. As I said, as you said, I was shouting at like it was so obvious. We all knew it. It was a bit of a trope to be slightly. It's like, oh yeah, okay, we know there's a cop coming to the door. We know he's going to be bad. They did show that she's not as prepared as we want her to be. Yeah. As in, she's still learning Krav Maga. She's not, you said, she's not super powered. Yeah. She's not Hellcat yet. She's not anything. She's a woman who is training every day. Yeah. In her.
Very strong though. I thought the actual fight itself really showed a competency in what she's doing. I loved the scene in the previous episode where she was taking the gun off her trainer, and essentially she'll keep fighting because she heard the click of the gun, which means she would have been dead. So she knows how hard she needs to train to get this proper self-defense up. So she does feel pretty confident, and I think that's shown in the scene, definitely. But unfortunately, when you have someone that's being sent at you by Kilgrave with the absolutely intense want to kill you, it seems like that can overpower you. But I thought it was a brilliant scene, really, really good.
Yeah, I love the setup as well for it. That the reason why the cop is there is because coming out of Trish talk, she beats up a fan because they think he's controlled by Kilgrave. Right. He's just asking for an autograph on a book or a comic, is it? So it was like, that was cool. I love the setup there, definitely.
I do love it. After he's been punched by her and dropped to the ground, he still goes, I want an autograph. He still looks for the autograph afterwards. But.
Yeah, and I'm loving that you brought this up. It's almost like we planned it. There's an Easter egg very much there. And now go with me on this. Go with me. So he drops a comic book called Patsy Walker. For our eagle-eyed fans, that was an Atlas comic book.
Right.
So Marvel Comics was Atlas Comics before its birth. Yes. Of Marvel Comics. Yes. And they had a comic book called Patsy Walker.
Right.
So I'm not sure if that's actually one of them, but again, in Daredevil we had Atlas shipping.
That's right. Yep.
So, and it was the Atlas logo. Again, this was actually a direct link back to Atlas in that it's a Patsy Walker comic book. Where I'm going with this is Trish Walker in the comic books. The way she is, or who she is that she is semi-famous because they retconned her from this Archie-like Patsy Walker comic into the comic books, and she had a comic book in the comic books written about her by her mother called Patsy Walker on Atlas Comics.
Cool.
So she actually has a set of comics written about her.
Okay.
So what they're doing here is then maybe like Hellcat. She is Hellcat. She has a comic book written about her as a child by her mother called Patsy Walker, and that's why he handed the Patsy Walker comic book to her to sign.
I get it. Yeah, I get it. It's kind of like Gone Girl, where his Ben Affleck's wife in that has a comic book written about her as a kid, or books written about her as a kid, and that's how she's gotten famous and gotten all of her money. Interesting. Yeah, that's an interesting idea.
So I think it was a nice.
It's like a Russian doll, the way you've explained it. It's a lot of comics within comic books within comic books. So I hope you've stayed with us on that one, listeners. But if not, makes sense.
Just literally Google Patsy Walker Comics, Atlas Comics, and you'll see. I want to know if it was actually a real one, or was it just a nice kind of reproduction of some kind.
Right.
But I thought it was just a nice Easter egg.
Yeah, interesting point, Chris. I guess we'll see if we can find out whether that is an original issue. We'll see if we can see a copy of it on the internet. John, what's your next point?
It's the face-to-face with Kilgrave between Jessica. You know, she's saved Trish Walker, and she's sort of tracking the cop who's going back to Kilgrave, and there we have it. They meet face-to-face through the glass of this apartment, and you know, you hear David Tennant with some pretty fruity language, you know, going on, watching the soccer, like. Really, just that great face-off. Really, really good. I absolutely loved it, and I loved then how that all develops. I presume as well that the family from apartment 128B are probably dead, or just going insane with whatever mind control he's placed into their brains. Because this is a different apartment, I think.
Yeah.
And it was just a really good sort of that meeting, you know, Jessica trying to save the cop from chucking himself off the roof garden to the street below.
It reminded me of Lemmings for some reason. That game, it was like he was constantly going to the edge to throw himself off and you had to pull him back.
You know, and then obviously there's the whole then chase and everything. I thought it was really good. It was great to see, you know, that meeting of the two. And
just as their eyes meet through the patio door, it's really a really interesting one.
I just actually remembered she never took Trish's phone back.
No, not that we saw.
Not that we saw
from the cop.
From the cop.
Interesting. Yeah.
It was a great way of tracking it. Very James Bondy kind of thing, but that's a $1,000 phone.
I know, it's
better get that back.
Trish can afford it. It's
okay. That's true.
Actually, what David Tennant was watching in there wasn't soccer, which I thought was interesting. This is our second rugby reference.
Oh, it was rugby.
Yeah, I wonder if this was being recorded during the Rugby World Cup earlier on this year, because it's really surprising that an American show would have rugby being watched. But the reason why I know is because he goes, he says, you ginger twat, do you not know a spear tackle when you see one, essentially, which is a rugby term. So,
and there you go, users, listeners.
And the reason why that particularly stood out to me was because the first person that attacks Jessica is a ginger-haired guy. So I like the connection between the two of those lines, that Kilgrave's calling someone a ginger twat on TV, and then a ginger guy attacks Jessica. My point about the fight, because it is an epic idea in here, this is what real minions look like in this version of the Marvel Universe. You know, in the Avengers and in all the films, it's tended to be there's loads of bad guys, and they've got all their disciples around them, or they've got people that believe in what they're doing. In Jessica Jones, this is essentially Kilgrave choosing a family unit and telling them to go after Jessica Jones. He's also told the cop to go after Trish. Essentially, it's showing how many weapons he can create with just a word to them. He's suddenly got an army around him that can take down anybody he wants them to take down, which I think is fascinating. It's a really different version of having a huge army at your command. Much different from like the Avengers with the Chitauri, which is just an invading force from another planet. For some reason, this is much different and much creepier to me.
Yeah, definitely.
No, and I think that was that's going to be the difference between most of the fight scenes we'll see. Mm-hmm. In that these people are not thugs like in Daredevil or gangbangers or the Chinese triads or whatever we have that were in Daredevil, that we, as you said, were the expendable minions. Yeah. Jessica Jones, she doesn't want to do this. She goes, I'm really sorry about this, and then throws the mother. Yeah. And then when she grabs the son, it's go to sleep. Where she could have just, she had him in a neck hold. She could have just twisted, and then you hear the, and then that's a broken neck, and it's done and dusted. She's like, no, go asleep. Yeah. And she takes damage. We can see she's not invulnerable. She doesn't have an unbreakable skin. Mm-hmm. So she does bleed. Because she takes, I don't know where the cuts on her face came from. That's what I was trying to figure out.
She's thrown around quite a bit. And, I think it might be from the fall from the roof when she saves Officer Simpson.
Ah, right, okay.
As she falls, holding him, I think she gets a couple of cuts and bruises. But yeah, you're right. It's the army of innocence that Kilgrave has at his command. Yeah. Really, it's, I just think that's an absolutely terrifying idea, because Kilgrave himself, hopefully he's not listening, he's a bit of a wuss, really. I doubt that he's going to get into a fist fight with any powered character, but the minute he opens his mouth, he's going to be able to turn you against whoever he wants to turn you against. Please don't turn me against my friends.
And then, the part on this kind of extended scene that I want to talk about was our third episode and our third shuddering and oh my god moment, the room with the photos.
Oh gosh, yeah,
absolutely. The printer just going off. And like that whole creepy collage that he's got. It was some great
artwork. Artwork. Like he is talented. I'll give him that. He can arrange photos in a fantastic way. But again, I think what we're seeing is in every episode there is going to be that kind of either as I said in our last episode, it's a juddering moment and oh my god, powerful moment. Some type of powerful emotion will be pulled through. So we have now had we've now had this room with the photos. We've had this room with, we've had the kill me moment. Yeah. And then obviously in the first one we had the lick. Mm-hmm. So every episode has some type of scene where it is kind of, oh my God.
Absolutely. And I mean, you can see that it disturbs her to the core because she goes back to Luke's bar outside and looks around to see how did he get that photograph of me. And I spotted that there was even one of us sat on the subway from episode 2. And you're kind of going, is he controlling multiple people? Has he almost generated a hive of people that he's controlling? And he's kind of making that suggestion to them to take photos of her whenever they see her? Or is it him? Or is he using some kind of network of cameras? Or, you know, how is he coming to have all these photographs of certain moments that she doesn't know how it's happening? And that is it's that stalking. It's that real creepy surveillance that's going on. Really, really cool. Definitely.
It is. I got that impression that it's something like he's put this idea in hundreds of people's heads. When you see Jessica Jones, take a photograph of her and send it to this address almost. That's why the printer's going off constantly, you know. That's what it feels like.
And then
that's
the ending.
Really creepy because if it was him, if he was taking the photograph, she'd recognize him. She'd know he's there. But the fact that he can hide out essentially in other people's minds to take photographs of her wherever she goes is so creepy.
Yeah, and she sees herself, and she's that ending. I have the word ending with a big, massive question mark circled because she's looking at herself up on the piece where she was surveilling Luke. Yeah, and then she turns to the camera, and again, is that I figured something else, and then bloody cuts to credits, and I was like, just 2 more minutes, please, just a little bit more, and that's the thing. Netflix and the guys, these showrunners, are fantastic for binging.
Absolutely.
Like they know how to get you binging into next. And it's that 17, 20 seconds where you're like, it's 3 a.m. I should probably go to bed, but oh no, I just want to know what that answer was.
I don't know what that was, exactly. Yeah. So is it that that Luke or somebody close to him took a photograph of her up on that? You know, is it somebody else that lives in that building above the bar? Is it just somebody that was sitting in the bar?
The old man, white guy that runs the bar with Luke.
Oh yeah,
we still don't know. We don't.
One, have we?
No, we saw him in episode 2 for slightly, but he was sitting there and like then he got up and left.
Right.
But I'm wondering if he took a photo and then got up and left.
Maybe.
There you go.
Chris, do you have a final point?
Okay, we've been dancing around the point, and I want to bring it up. Yeah, there's such thing as a skeleton in the closet, and then there's a dead wife in the mirror. So it's been confirmed that photo in the mirror was Luke's dead wife, Reva Connors. Yeah. So we now know it's not a sister, it's not a girlfriend, it's his dead wife. And that obviously I'm quite sad because having a dead wife's terrible. I'm very sorry for anything, but it was a great reveal the way he just kind of plonked it out there, and then at the end where he goes, "What's your problem?" "Oh, is it my dead wife?" Yeah, he uses that bit like he uses that terminology, those 2 words, kind of like a baseball bat.
Yeah.
It was a hard thing, and then the key thing that we found out is the death of this wife is linked to the bus crash. Yeah, we knew that, but she didn't die in the bus crash.
Yeah.
She was punched by Jessica and went flying. And I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
I'm more curious how the hell they're going to get past that and when she's going to tell him.
I know. It felt like she was going to tell him in this episode. It felt like she was there to tell him. And then he used the line. So it looks like since the death happened a year ago, some other women have had that issue, that he's got a dead wife he's still hung up on, so he won't be able to commit to a relationship with me, so I'll leave him for that reason. Seems to be the way it was said to Jessica. Oh, I understand why you're walking away, because I got a dead wife. What he doesn't know, as you said, Chris, is that Jessica caused it.
Yeah, because, I mean, she's there, she's outside his apartment. It does look like she's about to kind of maybe just explain the situation, and then it all gets too messy and too complicated, and it's like, do you know, maybe I just leave it and we split, and you have that that split from the 2 of them where she kind of just walks off and says, look, I can't carry on doing this. But it's a huge bombshell, and absolutely. I mean, it's going to be a huge moment in this series when that truth comes out there. I mean, in fairness to Jessica, she's under the influence of Kilgrave there, but something as well sparks her to keep on walking, and whether it's because of what she's just done.
Exactly.
And that breaks the spell of Kilgrave because, she has said previously her weakness that Kilgrave identified was that she gave a damn about people. And maybe in that moment, despite being under his influence, she realized that what had happened, what she had been forced to do was bad, and she cared for this woman that she had just punched. And that broke the spell of Kilgrave.
I think, the killing of someone. Like, Kilgrave just forced me to kill someone. And then she's like, "What? Why?" Because she said she did something like walk to the body, and then he got annoyed because she kept walking.
Yeah.
And then turned around. And I think that's maybe the snap. She did something so bad, she's hated herself for so long, is because she killed a woman because he made her.
Yeah.
And then that death is on her hands.
Exactly, because I thought it was quite interesting when you put the two scenes together, the bus crash from the previous episode and this scene. I was wondering why, when Kilgrave's shouting after Jessica, "Get back here," why she isn't turning around. Because it's been established that the power that he has is in his voice and that he can control anybody really easily with his voice. So Jessica's obviously got a very powerful mind to be able to block that out, even for a couple of seconds, until he got knocked down by the bus. So, really, really interesting. Looking forward to seeing a bit more of that.
I wonder if there's more to the scene.
Yeah, maybe.
Like, I think, is this going to be every 2 episodes we'll get flashbacks that add to that scene?
Maybe.
And then at the very end we get a whole 5-minute scene where it's the before and the after.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe. John, do you have a final point?
I do. It's the return of the Alias Investigations door, and this time with a father-son combination. I just loved this. It was great fun. It kept the door front and center, as it were, within the series.
And the corridor,
and it was, and in the corridor, and finally some great banter between the two, father-son. And Jessica, she goes, "You're early," because she's actually hired them this time. And then they're like, "No, we're 3 hours late," because she's just woken up late. Really good. They're Portuguese. The son is translating what the father is saying, and comes out with, "This is a business, not a charity for women with broken doors." Just like really, really good. And then finally, they fix the door. It's got the new pane of glass in there, but until you pay us, you don't get the key back to your apartment. Mm-hmm. So it was just that's just nice, great fun in the episode, given some of the heavy stuff that we've been dealing with. So I loved this. And I suppose here's to the next broken pane of glass and more door related fun and frolics.
Well, absolutely, because she's not given the keys. Jessica does break the lock again to get into her apartment. She twists the handle and breaks the lock to get in. So once again, she's still without a working door. So really, really good.
So, Derek, have you got any final points or notes for this episode?
I don't have any final points. All my points have pretty much been taken up, but just a little note that I thought was really interesting about this episode. Again, it's about Kilgrave. Every single person that Kilgrave has had control of knows about Jessica Jones, which I think is really interesting. Everybody from the cops to obviously all the people that he was in control of in the loft apartment that he took over all know something about Jessica Jones. I thought that was really interesting. They're not only sent out on individual little missions to protect him, they're also told this is the most important person. Don't kill her if she enters the apartment, is what the officer's told. It's not her time to die, isn't it? Yep. So each one of them have something. So just showing the absolute obsession of Kilgrave, which we do know about, or we've heard a little bit about, but it just shows the obsession of him, that not only does he just control them to get a free dinner or get a free apartment, he also tells them, and this is the woman that meant so much to me and she left me, and this is why I'm in the state I'm in, basically. So I think that's just a really interesting touch by the writers in this episode.
Does anyone else have any notes, Chris?
Yeah, I had one, and I again, this is, I don't know if this is anything whatsoever. When Jessica's in buying her whiskey, there's the radio station in the background.
Yes.
There's the talk show talking about the Kilgrave session and the girl, the girl shooting. And I was controlled by the devil. He sounds a bit like JJJ. Mr. Jimson himself, the Daily Bugle, just that kind of Western twang in the outback kind of big piece. I just thought it was nice. They never mentioned who he was, and it was fun that even Jessica kind of did a bit of you listen to this crap, like it's the old J.J. Jameson kind of spewing rhetoric about how evil the gifted people are, the heroes, blah, blah, blah. So rather than maybe the Daily Bugle, we have a daily chat show called The Bugle or something like that. Yeah. That's how I would love just if that radio station in the background is kind of that every now and again turns out spewing rhetoric about the gifted people, the green dude and his crew. And we find out then in 2019 when Spider-Man film comes out, that this radio show host Peter Parker gets a job there. It could be interesting. I just thought it was quite fun.
Yeah, absolutely. This is the radio show where the caller's saying that Hope is coming up with this story because of essentially because of when the attack happened on New York and the Avengers are there. People are now saying that there's a superpowered being that can do X, Y, and Z to explain away their own issues. I want to listen back to it because you said J. Jonah Jameson. I'm wondering, stick with me on this because I don't know. I want to listen back to it because I'm wondering, is this our Stan Lee cameo? Was that Stan Lee on the radio saying that?
Oh, it could be.
I'm just thinking. It's an interesting use of him.
It could be JJJ or it could be
Stan Lee.
Stan Lee.
Yeah. Because remember one of the Stan Lee cameos in one of the films is superheroes in New York. That's not believable. Yeah. So I'm wondering, are they using the same character? Well, okay, listeners might know.
Yeah, and in Daredevil, it was a picture in the police station.
Yeah.
The cop, yeah.
John, any final notes from you?
No, just simply to reiterate that Whiskey Watch this week is Wild Turkey.
We will get your whiskey, don't worry. So, John, do you defend this episode?
I do. I defend episode 3 of Jessica Jones. And given that we are moving into the festive season, I'm going to give it 4 sweet Christmases out of 5. Nice. This to me had a huge amount going on. And actually, because we watched it in the evening and we podcasted the next day now, actually having time just to think about the episode, this got better and better in my mind when I went back over my notes. This episode really did have an awful lot going on. I love the fact that they had some really little jokey elements, such as the door being fixed again. But at the same time, I loved that we got the background and development of Jessica and Luke's relationship here and some of their backstories. That was really important. The fact that Trish, again, said really wanted to see how her character developed. There's an awful lot in here for Trisha, and it's all topped off with the creepy collage and Kilgrave and Jessica Jones coming face to face again for the first time in a long time.
Yeah.
And all that manipulation of all his like minions, as we've kind of been saying. So this really did have an awful lot in it and progressed the story a great deal. I'm really looking forward to the next episode now.
Definitely. Chris, do you defend this episode?
Okay, so I'm going to put this out there. As John said, we watched this last night and we're now podcasting in the morning. If you had have asked me that question last night, the answer was no.
Right.
I thought this was the dull episode. This was the dud. Now that I've slept on it and I've looked back over the notes and we kind of checked 1 or 2 quick things just by jumping through Netflix. No, I'm completely flipped. I'm now going, this was a fantastic episode. I think it could have been possibly there was so much in this. My brain slightly went, oh, okay, no, wait, kind of slow down.
Yeah.
Because I'm just not sure. But no, if you had have asked me yesterday, no. Asking me now, this was perfect. This was a great episode, so yes, I defend.
Right. Yeah, I kind of do feel sorry for someone that may have binge watched all 13 episodes. While I do want to get on to episode 4, I'm really excited for it. But I think if you'd skimmed over this episode, I think you could have just compartmentalized it into just has a bit of character development, grand, and just moved on to the next one and forgotten about it. There's so much here. The whole piece about Trish and the attack on her by the cop, the creation of the minions, as you said, John, by Kilgrave. I think that's absolutely fantastic stuff and it's really, really interesting. But number one is a conversation between two superheroes about how they got their superpowers, what they can do, how unbreakable is Luke's skin, how high can she jump, or how fast can she fly.
How hard can she bite?
How hard can she bite? Absolutely. Watch his extremities. Yes, I think it's just something that I really wanted to see, and I was delighted with this episode. Yeah, I absolutely defend this episode.
And also, one element that I forgot to mention was just the big bombshell with Reva Connors as well.
Yeah.
That, Luke and Jessica's relationship has been slightly topsy-turvy in these first three episodes. It's been on, it's been off, it's been full on and full off, and now it's really reached a bit of a schism where she's now back in charge of realizing what she did and who this person is. And unfortunately, she's connected to Luke Cage. So how that plays out moving forward, I can't wait to see.
Yeah. Just a little bit of other feedback that came in from David Wang on Facebook. Just search for Defenders TV podcast and find our group on there. David says, #bilingual bonus. The character on the Japanese, I think it was Japanese barbecue restaurant, means meat. But in Chinese, at least, it can also be a derogatory euphemism for women seen in a sexual manner. Like sexual prostitution is sometimes referred to as selling meat. Quite interesting, isn't it? So it's an Asian fusion restaurant, they call it, don't they?
Yeah.
That's the restaurant that's in there, Misu. That's quite an interesting idea, isn't it? Like that particular character in the background is referring to meat, and obviously that's essentially what Kilgrave has turned Jessica into, has turned Hope into, is his own private prostitute that will do anything he wants her to do.
And maybe that's how he viewed what Kilgrave was doing, that was Hope was his prostitute for the night, and so on. Yeah, really, really good catch there.
Good catch, David, definitely.
We also received some audio feedback from Will Johnson, so thank you, Will, for that. Here's what his thoughts are on episode 1 of Jessica Jones.
What up, guys? So, I went and watched the first episode of Jessica Jones on Netflix, and I adored it. I like Jessica's attitude. She's really cool. I guess she she seems to maybe not pessimistic, it's the right word, but I don't know, I just really like her, and I like the voiceovers. I know another TV show that has a female lead that does voiceovers. They didn't do voiceovers well on that show. I'm not going to name any names, but Matt knows what I'm talking about. But yeah, and it's good to see Luke Cage. And man, I want to do Luke Cage cosplay next year, but I don't know if I want to pump enough iron to get that ripped. And that's a fine looking man. Anyway, so yeah. Looking forward to seeing more. Looking forward to seeing that villain. Oh, I thought that, once the parents got on the elevator, we were going to find out that, the villain had left an instruction for them to kill the daughter, but it ended up being the daughter shooting them. So, and I like that her sister or whoever that was eventually believed her when she started explaining, that he's back. So it wasn't like where, she kept doubting her, which is kind of annoying. It happens on TV shows. But anyway, I was going to watch one episode a week with you guys, but I think I'm getting ready to watch episode 2 now. I'll try not to spoil anything when I send in feedback, and looking forward to discussing this awesome show. Bye.
Yeah, I absolutely love that theory that it could have been the parents in the elevator who were controlled by Kilgrave and not Hope. Yeah. That's a really good theory. And certainly, yeah, completely agree. To get a decent Luke Cage cosplay, you need to seriously commit to that role well in advance of actually donning on the yellow t-shirt.
Maybe New York Comic Con 2018, maybe.
Well, for me, certainly with my 30-day shred, there's a lot to do before I can even attempt to probably get into an Iron Fist outfit. But Will, thank you so much for that feedback. We're really pleased you're enjoying the show as much as we are, and we can't wait to hear some of your thoughts on the other episodes of Jessica Jones. So thanks so much.
And if you want to send us in your feedback, just send it to feedback@defenderstvpodcast.com. You can obviously join us on either our Facebook group, our Facebook page. We try not to spoil anybody as they watch them at different rates. But if you want to pop in some feedback to us, at our email address. We will obviously discuss it on our next episode. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast on defenderstvpodcast.com/iTunes. Our next episode will be released on Tuesday, and then every Tuesday until the end of the series. Really happy you guys have been joining us. And you can also get us on Android, obviously. Just subscribe to the podcast on any good podcast catcher like Beyond Pod, Podcast Addict. And we're also on Stitcher. Just search for Defenders TV Podcast on there.
So thank you so much for listening, and we will be back soon. Thanks. Bye.
Bye. Sweet Christmas.
Bye, everybody.
Sweet baby Christmas.